Hello, my name is Jennifer, and I'm 25 years old. I live with my dad and my older sister, Jessica, who's 29. Jessica has always been the favorite in our family. She's smart, successful, and knows how to make dad happy. Me. I'm the quiet one who does all the chores, runs errands, and helps out whenever needed. 2 weeks ago, Jessica announced she was planning a big family trip to Hawaii. At first, I was excited, thinking I'd finally get to relax and have fun with them. But Jessica had other ideas. "We've decided," Jessica said with a smug smile, "that you'll stay home while Dad and I go to Hawaii. Someone needs to take care of the house." I stared at her, confused. "Wait. I'm not invited." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Jennifer, it's not about being invited. Someone has to keep things running here. You're good at that." Dad, sitting nearby, nodded. "It's only for a week, Jennifer. Be reasonable. Be reasonable." I had spent years putting their needs before mine, always stepping aside while Jessica got the spotlight. And now, they expected me to be their housekeeper while they sipped drinks on a beach. "That's not fair," I said, my voice shaking. "I work hard too. I deserve a vacation just as much as you do." Jessica laughed like I'd said something ridiculous. "Jennifer, you wouldn't even know what to do on a trip like this. It's expensive and honestly, you'd feel out of place." Her words hurt, but I didn't want to show it. Instead, I went to my room, feeling ignored and unimportant. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed the conversation over and over. They really didn't care about me. But then, an idea hit me. I grabbed my phone and texted Jackson, my boyfriend. Jackson was kind, supportive, and, well, a billionaire. His money didn't matter to me, but he had the means to help me escape this situation. "Jennifer, Jackson, Jessica, and Dad are going to Hawaii without me. They expect me to stay home and take care of everything. I'm so frustrated." His reply came quickly. "Jackson, that's ridiculous. Pack your bags. I'll take you to Hawaii myself." My heart raced. Was he serious? The more I thought about it, the more I realized, I wanted to go. I wanted to prove I wasn't just the quiet sister who stayed behind. "Jennifer, are you sure?" "Jackson, absolutely. I'll send the jet tomorrow morning." A private jet. Jackson had one, and he was offering to take me on the trip of a lifetime. I smiled, imagining Jessica and Dad's faces when they found out. The next morning, I packed my bag quietly. Jessica and Dad were busy planning their own trip, too caught up to notice what I was doing. At breakfast, Jessica smirked at me. "Make sure the house is spotless while we're gone, Jennifer. Don't forget to water my plants." I didn't respond, biting my tongue. If only she knew what I was planning. By 10 a.m., I got a text from Jackson. "Jackson, plane's ready. I'll pick you up in 30 minutes." I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Dad saw me as I was leaving. "Where are you going?" he asked, frowning. "I'm going on a trip too," I said calmly. He laughed like it was a joke. "Don't be silly, Jennifer. You're staying here. Jessica and I leave in a few hours." I stood my ground. "I'm not staying. I've made my own plans." Before he could say another word, I walked out the door. Jackson was waiting for me in his car, looking as confident as ever. "You ready?" he asked with a smile, taking my bag. "More than ready," I said, glancing back at the house. Dad was at the window, staring at us in shock. For once, I didn't care what he thought. The drive to the airport was quick. When I stepped onto Jackson's private jet, I couldn't believe my eyes. Everything was luxurious, from the seats to the service. As we took off, I felt a sense of freedom I'd never known. This isn't just about the trip, I thought. It's about showing them I won't be pushed aside anymore. Jackson smiled at me. You deserve this, Jennifer. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest that I hadn't felt in a long time. Thank you, Jackson. I don't know what I'd do without you. You don't have to thank me, he said, leaning closer with a reassuring smile. This is just the beginning. When we landed in Hawaii, I was in awe. The crystal-clear waters, golden sand, and lush green mountains looked like something out of a dream. Jackson had booked us a private villa overlooking the beach, complete with its own pool and a personal chef. As we settled in, Jackson handed me a pair of sunglasses and grinned. Want to explore the resort? Absolutely, I said, eager to see more. We hadn't walked far when I spotted a familiar figure by the pool. It was Jessica, lounging on a chair with a cocktail in her hand, chatting loudly with some strangers. My heart raced. I hadn't planned on running into her so soon. But part of me was eager to see her reaction. When Jessica finally noticed me, her jaw dropped. Her eyes darted to Jackson, then back to me, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Jennifer, what are you doing here? She stammered, standing up so quickly she spilled her drink. I smiled, keeping my voice calm. Oh, didn't I mention? I decided to take a trip to Hawaii too. Her face turned red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. But, how? You can't afford this. Jackson stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. She didn't have to, he said smoothly. I took care of everything. Jessica's mouth opened and closed like she wanted to argue, but for once, she had nothing to say. And I had never felt more powerful. Jessica stared at him, realization dawning on her face. Wait, you're Jackson Walker. The Jackson Walker. That's me, Jackson said smoothly, offering a polite smile. Jennifer and I have been seeing each other for a while. I couldn't hide my grin as I watched Jessica struggle to process what was happening. For the first time in my life, I had the upper hand, and it felt incredible. Jessica stood frozen, her expression shifting from shock to poorly disguised envy. I could almost see the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to spin this situation in her favor. Well, this is unexpected, she said, forcing a smile. I didn't know you had such connections, Jennifer. I raised an eyebrow, refusing to take the bait. There's a lot you don't know about me, Jessica. Jackson, ever the gentleman, stepped in. If you'll excuse us, we were just about to grab lunch. It was nice seeing you, Jessica. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she plastered on another fake smile. Of course. Enjoy your meal. As we walked away, I could feel her glare burning into my back. Part of me wanted to revel in her discomfort, but I knew Jessica well enough to know she wouldn't let this go so easily. That evening, Jackson and I attended a private dinner at the resort's exclusive rooftop restaurant. The view of the sunset over the ocean was breathtaking, and for the first time in years, I felt truly happy. But, as always, Jessica had to make an appearance. She walked in with Dad, who looked just as stunned to see me. Jessica, however, had clearly spent the afternoon rehearsing her lines. Jennifer, she said sweetly, approaching our table. Dad and I were just talking about how nice it is that you're here. We should do something together, like old times. I set my fork down and met her gaze. Old times. You mean the times when I was left behind to clean up after everyone? Jessica's smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. Come on, Jennifer. Don't be like that. You know we've always cared about you. Jackson, sensing my frustration, placed a reassuring hand over mine. Jennifer doesn't owe anyone an explanation. She's here to enjoy herself, just like everyone else. Dad finally spoke, his voice gruff. Jennifer, I don't know how you managed all this, but don't you think it's a bit much? A private jet. A villa. This isn't you. I felt my anger rise, but I kept my voice steady. No, Dad. This is me. The part of me you've always ignored because you were too busy catering to Jessica. Dad looked taken aback, but Jessica wasn't done. Jennifer, don't turn this into a scene. Let's talk privately. No, I stood up, my voice firm. I'm done being dismissed and talked down to. You two can enjoy your trip, but I'm not here to play along with your games anymore. With that, I grabbed my purse, and Jackson and I left the restaurant. I could feel Jessica and Dad's stunned stares following us as we walked away. But for once, I didn't care. The next morning, Jessica showed up uninvited at our villa. Jackson was out making arrangements for a surprise, so I was alone when she arrived. Jennifer, we need to talk, she said, her tone unusually serious. I crossed my arms. What is it now? Jessica hesitated, then sighed dramatically. Look, I'll admit I've been hard on you. But you have to understand, Dad and I were just trying to protect you. We didn't think you were ready for, well, this kind of lifestyle. Protect me. I repeated, incredulous. You mean control me? Her face tightened, but she pressed on. Fine. Maybe we made mistakes. But now you've got this amazing opportunity. Jackson, he's wealthy, successful, you could really build something with him. I narrowed my eyes, sensing exactly where this was going. What are you trying to say, Jessica? I asked, crossing my arms. She hesitated, shifting uncomfortably before blurting out, just, don't mess it up. You don't have the experience to handle someone like him. If you're not careful, you'll end up alone. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Thanks for the advice, Jessica, but I think I'll manage just fine. I stepped back and gripped the door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have better things to do than listen to your fake concern. With that, I shut the door in her face, leaving her standing there, fuming. For the first time in my life, it felt good to finally stand up for myself. That evening, Jackson surprised me with a sunset yacht cruise. The golden light reflected off the waves, casting everything in a warm glow. He turned to me with a soft smile, his fingers gently taking mine. Jennifer, he said, voice steady, you've been through so much, and yet you've stayed kind, strong, and genuine. I can't imagine my life without you. Before I could respond, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught as he flipped it open, revealing a stunning diamond ring. Will you marry me? Tears welled in my eyes as I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Jackson. 1,000 times, yes. As he slid the ring onto my finger, a wave of emotions washed over me, happiness, gratitude, and, most of all, a newfound sense of worth. For the first time, I wasn't just someone's shadow. I was Jennifer, and I was ready to take on the world. News of our engagement spread quickly, thanks to Jackson's status, and it didn't take long for Jessica to find out. Predictably, she wasn't happy. I expected her usual sulking and snide remarks, but Jessica had something else planned. 2 days after the proposal, she invited Jackson and me to a family dinner at an upscale restaurant in Honolulu. My first instinct was to decline, but Jackson encouraged me to go. Maybe it's her way of making peace, he suggested. I wasn't convinced, but I agreed. When we arrived, Jessica greeted us with an exaggerated smile. Jennifer, Jackson, I'm so glad you could make it. Tonight is about family. Her words felt forced, but I played along. Thanks for inviting us. Dinner started off uneventfully, but it didn't take long for Jessica to steer the conversation in a predictable direction. So, Jackson, she said, swirling her wine, what's it like managing such a massive fortune? I imagine it takes a lot of trust. Jackson, ever the gentleman, answered politely. It does. But trust isn't something I give lightly. Jessica's eyes flicked to me, a sly smile playing on her lips. And Jennifer, how do you feel about all this? It must be overwhelming, stepping into such a glamorous life. I met her gaze, refusing to take the bait. I'm happy, Jessica. Jackson and I make a great team. She leaned back, clearly annoyed that I wasn't rising to her provocation, but she wasn't done. As dessert was served, she suddenly leaned forward, her tone turning serious. Jennifer, there's something I need to say. I've been hesitant, but I think Jackson deserves to know. My stomach twisted. What are you talking about? Jessica took a dramatic sip of her wine before continuing. Jennifer hasn't always been honest. Back home, she borrowed money from me and never paid it back, thousands of dollars. She turned to Jackson with an expression of mock sympathy. I didn't want to bring it up, but I thought you should know. My jaw dropped. This was a complete lie. If anything, it was the other way around. Jessica was the one who constantly borrowed money from me. Jackson frowned, glancing at me. Jennifer. I shook my head, my voice firm. That's not true. Jessica, you're lying. She feigned surprise. Oh, come on, Jennifer. Don't pretend you've forgotten. I kept quiet because I didn't want to embarrass you, but I can't stay silent anymore. I turned to Jackson, my heart pounding. She's making this up. She's trying to create problems between us. Jackson reached for my hand, his expression calm. I believe you, Jennifer. Then, he turned to Jessica. This isn't the time or place for false accusations. Jessica's face flushed with anger, but before she could respond, Dad chimed in. Jessica, enough. This is ridiculous. I froze. Dad was defending me. That had never happened before. Jessica, however, was furious. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair over. You'll regret this, she hissed before storming out of the restaurant. The next morning, Jackson received a call from his legal team. Someone had tried to leak false rumors to the press, claiming he was involved in shady business deals. The source. Jessica. Jackson handled the situation swiftly. Within hours, her scheme was exposed. When confronted, she doubled down, insisting she had only been trying to protect me. I thought he was using you, she shouted when I confronted her. I wanted to make sure he was trustworthy. I scoffed. By lying and trying to ruin his reputation. You don't care about me, Jessica. You've never cared about anyone but yourself. She didn't respond. And for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that looked like regret. But it was too late. Jackson made it clear, we were cutting ties with her for good. The rest of our trip was blissful. For the first time in years, I felt free from the weight of Jessica's manipulations. When we returned home, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let my family hold me back anymore. Jessica's schemes and Dad's favoritism had no place in my future. Jackson and I started planning our wedding, and I focused on building a life filled with love and respect. As for Jessica, she eventually reached out, apologizing for everything. But I knew better. Some people only change when they have no other choice. And I wasn't going to wait around for that. I had finally found my voice. And I wasn't about to lose it again.